Well, today marks 100 days since Mark Carney was voted in as the 24th Prime Minister of Canada. Let's dive into how he is faring with our political panel. Joining me now is Amanda Alvaro, Laryssa, Waler, and Marion, Nader. And let's face it, Carney's first 100 days have been dominated by Trump and his tariffs. What report card grade would you give him? A, B, C, anybody going for an F? Amanda, I'm going to start with you.
Well, it will probably come as no surprise that I'm going to give him some high marks.
Okay.
Somewhere in the
you are the
B+,
liberal here.
A- range. And Canadians would agree. He has a whopping 67% approval rating. That is a really high approval rating amongst Canadians. 100 days is a long time, but a lot has happened. Repealing the carbon tax, reducing income taxes, taking down those barriers for interprovincial trade, and negotiating with Trump. So a lot's happened in 100 days.
I'm not sure your fellow panelists will agree. Laryssa.
A lot also hasn't happened in those first 100 days. There's been no budget, which is a really big deal when you run on your sort of fiscal management, economic management report card and experience.
So what grade?
I would give him a C-, D+. There's been a lot of talk, but there's been very little action. I agree that Canadians' perception towards Mark Carney is still very, very high. I think that's resting on his laurels and the fact that he isn't his predecessor, which was the #1 job when he became the Prime Minister, was to not be Justin Trudeau, and he is not. He is the adult in the room, but on the key things that he's supposed to actually deliver on, he has not delivered.
Marion.
I'm going to come up the middle. I think I'm just going to give him, a solid B. He came in a really, accidental time.
You're being more generous than
I am, because you know what? I'm giving him benefit of the doubt because a lot of things that he has to deal with actually are not partisan issues. Like Trump is not a partisan issue. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I think, both Amanda and Laryssa are both right. There are some things that he did do that were good, but some things he hasn't done. So I'm going for a solid B.
Is Canada's strategy working when it comes to Trump and the tariffs? I mean, Mexico got a reprieve from the tariffs. Canada did not. Mexico did not impose retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. Canada has. So is the strategy working? Is it failing? Laryssa, I'll start with you this time.
I'd say right now we're failing. I think Canada and China are the only two countries that have brought forward retaliatory tariffs. I think, again, it's been a lot of talk and a lot of bluster, and Mark Carney ran on his ability to manage this crisis. That's why he sort of came in to save us all. And he hasn't been able to do that.
Do you think Pierre Poilievre could have done better?
Oh, I think it would have been a totally different ballgame. So much of this is about relationship building, and it's about the tone. And you saw Ambassador Hoekstra yesterday talk about the tone in the room. I think the tone of the room under a Conservative government would have been much different.
Interesting. Marion.
I think he's playing the long game. What I think Trump did was teach Canada a lesson, right? So what Mexico did was, if they placate, play nice, don't embarrass him, you get the reprieve. If you challenge Trump or, God forbid, stand up for yourself, you're going to get tariffs. So I think he's trying to teach Canada a lesson, but I think Carney's moving forward and just playing the long game.
Amanda, I'll give you the last word on this topic.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that it is the long game. I think that we can't really give him a final grade until it's done. I think he's protecting the interests of Canadians, of workers. I think that he's operating in good faith. I think that he wants a fair deal that we have under Kuzma. He wants a predictable deal, and he's doing the hard work to get it done.
So we're finding out that, and it's no surprise, aluminum and steel are getting the brunt of the tariffs. What does this mean going forward?
It's a lot of pain for the direct and indirect jobs.
Because there are a lot of jobs that feed off that industry.
Yeah, and also for those thousands of people who are going to be hit by these tariffs. When in terms of support and government looking at these jobs or sectors that are going to be hit, there are people behind that. So the thousands of jobs that are on the line, you have to look at the size of the compensation needs to match the size of the crisis.
Laryssa.
Compensation is temporary. What they need are new customers, frankly. And to have new customers, we need to create an environment where foreign direct investment wants to come to Canada. If we're not going to rely on the States, which we can't, we've been shown we can't rely on the States, we have to attract new investors here. We have to find new customers. We also have to separate steel and aluminum, right? The impact and the risk profile are totally different. The F-150, for example, the most popular car in the world, is made mostly of aluminum, Canadian aluminum. Steel, the U.S. doesn't really need our steel. So that's when I talk about finding new customers. Canada has to create conditions where companies want to come invest in Canada, move their families to Canada, and they're not doing that because livability here isn't as great as it used to be.
Yeah, I think there's a few things underway. I think that the Carney government is looking at it possibly in three ways. The continued negotiation with Trump to get the best possible deal for our workers. Also looking at diversifying our markets. So what new markets can we attract? How do we attract those markets? Taking down those interprovincial trade barriers to make sure that we have that kind of trade between provinces. And then also aid. What is the aid that is necessary right now to protect families, to protect workers during this turbulent time?
Today, Laryssa, and I'm going to bring you into this right away because you worked with Premier Doug Ford during his first term. Today, he was thanking Donald Trump for uniting Canada like never before. He said that in a news conference. Do you agree? And at the same time, this Friday, Pierre Poilievre, the advance voting begins in the riding that Pierre Poilievre is hoping to be elected to in Alberta. He was deemed a bit more divisive, say, than Carney. Do Canadians want a divisive or a uniting prime minister?
I think it depends on who you talk to, if he's
good point.
divisive or not, right? If we're looking, if we are going west of Manitoba or Saskatchewan, I think that they're going to think that Pierre Poilievre is somebody who listens to them and who understands.
And speaks their truth, definitely.
Understands what's going on. If we're looking in Ontario, Quebec, the Maritime provinces, I would say that's more of a uniting call. Listen, I think Doug Ford's right that there is a renewed sense of Canadian nationalism, but I think that shine is wearing off, and people are looking for more than just rhetoric and you know, the Prime Minister saying elbows up. There needs to be something more than that, and Canadian nationalism needs to be more than just we don't like the United States. I'm so tired of my Canadian identity being told to be tied to how I feel about America. The two are not linked, and Canadians' relationship with the United States is bigger than just Trump. There's families, there's friends, there's businesses, right? So I think it's really important to understand what does it mean to be Canadian and work in Canada's interest, but that doesn't mean we have to all collectively hate the Americans.
Amanda, I like this conversation where this is going. This is interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's important to have that perspective. I think that Canadians have come together in more ways than I hate Americans. I actually don't think that's the sentiment. I think it's about looking domestically, about what we can do for each other, for our neighbors. Buying local has been obviously a big phenomenon that we've seen really grow in the last number of months, how we can support Canadian businesses and support each other. So it's not necessarily about, you know, I won't go to the U.S. or I won't support American interests, but it's I'll support Canadian interests first.
I'll stay home.
And I'm okay with that.
Marion.
Yeah. No, it is actually very interesting. And I think also what this has done, yes, it's united the country. It's also brought us back to identifying what are our Canadian values that we support and that we want to keep, you know, sort of Canadian. And I think looking at that and looking at how do we now expand, thinking we took it for granted, our relationship with the States. But in terms of the economy, our sovereignty, our values, I think people are more proud, but looking at how do we now take that to the next level and next step and reinvent ourselves
in a new way that we can sustain ourselves going forward rather than relying on the U.S.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this conversation. As always, fascinating to talk with each of you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.